بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين أفضل الصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ورضي الله تعالى عن السادة التابعين وعلماء العالمين والأئمة الأربعة المجتهدين ومقلديهم إلى يوم الدين آمين. So we're going to continue with our study of the text, Mukhtasar Akdari. We are now in the chapter number 6, things which necessitate ghusl. So now we're getting further into tahara, into purification. We're still on wet tahara. We covered the wudu, the obligations, the conditions, and the sunnah. And now we're beginning, Sheikh Akhdari is now taking us into ghusl. And he starts off with what are the causes, what happens that necessitates ghusl. So he says that ghusl, which is a ritual bath, is obligatory on account of three things: janaba, haid, menstruation, and nifas, postnatal bleeding, which is the bleeding a woman sometimes experiences after childbirth. Now, when we say janaba, this is a state of major impurity. So this is khabeth, and it only can be removed from ghusl. So this is when ghusl is obligatory now upon you, when these three things happen: janaba and haid. And in the Maliki school, haid or the menses is the maximum is 15 days. Once a woman bleeds past 15 days, it's called istihada. This is no longer considered haid. And the ruling for that would be the same as a man when he has salus, when he has an issue where he constantly has to urinate all the time. She would just make wudu for each prayer. Ghusl would not remove it. So keep that in mind. That's an important note, especially for the sisters. In the Maliki school, the haid is 15 days. Anything past 15 days, if some women may exceed that, it's no longer considered menstrual. You don't have to take ghusl. Now you would just make wudu before every prayer. Uh, and the last would be the postnatal bleeding. So janaba, which is a state of major impurity, is the asbab is two. Asbab means the causes. So there's two causes for janaba. The first is the release of mani, which is semen, with normal pleasure, meaning normal sexual pleasure. If you're having sex and you release many, then this will put you in janaba, or while asleep. So he says release of semen with normal pleasure while asleep or awake by intercourse or other means, meaning having sex with another person, masturbation, or a wet dream. If you was awake and you got aroused and you secreted many semen, this will put you in janaba. Now, many is for male and female. And for the female, it's sometimes described as a little bit yellowish. As the man, we know it's like an off white, so it's not exactly the same color for a female, but we both have it. And uh, even and also a point to note is that also the second one is the second cause is when the male organ penetrates the female genitalia. And that means even if the tip of the penis penetrates any part of a woman, front or back, or a man or an animal, you would be in a state of janaba. So even if neither one of you orgasms and you don't secrete man for a woman, as soon as the tip of it enters her sexual organs, you have to take ghusl. Now, there's a point to this. Oral sex, that's penal sex or anal sex. Oral sex is different. If you perform oral sex on her or she performs oral sex on you, you must secrete many in order for you to have to be in janaba and take ghusl. So if you perform oral sex on your spouse, male or female, whichever one on whoever, and neither one of you secretes many, you don't have to take ghusl. That's the exception. That's the difference. But if the penis penetrates the vagina or the anus of a woman, or the anus of a man or an animal, whatever. It may be reprehensible, but this is the reality. The man, you would have to take ghusl. You would be in janaba. So that's the thing. For the woman, it's not just secreting men. It is even if the penis enters her. The tip of it enters the vagina or the anus, she is now in janaba, even if there was no ejaculation from either one of them. But if you secrete uh, many, any type of sexual intercourse, whether it's with another person or self gratification or wet dream or while asleep or awake, and you release many semen, which is najis, you have to take ghusl. And like I said, the second one arises immediately when the male organ penetrates the female genitalia. So an exception to this, Akdari says, whoever sees himself having intercourse in a dream but does not release any semen has nothing to worry about. So if you had a wet dream or an arousal dream or you daydreamed and you got aroused, but you didn't secrete many, you don't have to take ghusl. And whoever finds dry sperm on their garment and cannot remember when it got there, you should perform ghusl and repeat all salat that was done since the time you slept. So if you fell asleep after Dhuhr, whatever prayer time, and you wake up and you see many on your clothes, you can't remember when it happened. Say things, say ghusl, and you make up the prayers that were prior to when you fell asleep, and then continue from there. This is what Sheikh Akhtari's opinion. This is this is to remove any doubt. That way you won't owe any prayers. And this is really the chapter. Chapter 6, things which necessitate ghusl. So what necessitates ghusl is three things: janaba, haid, and nifas. And we know to the side of haid, menses, is 15 days in the Maliki school. And nifas, postnatal bleeding after childbirth. And once the bleeding is over, she would take ghusl, and now she's pure. And keep in mind, until you take ghusl after nifas, you can't have sex with your spouse either. I know, some people even notice, she may have had stitches or didn't have stitches, that she healed technically, physically from the childbirth. If she's still bleeding or spotting or any type of blood and she's not completely clean and has to take ghusl, it's haram to have sex with each other. It's haram. So know that as well. So this is important for us to know um, for our relationships with each other, for our relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost. And then the asbab are two. The release of semen, whether through sexual intercourse, whether through self gratification or a wet dream. And secondly, once the male penis enters the female genitalia, uh, you're in janaba. You're in janaba, even if you don't secrete it, you're in janaba. So this is important to know, and to know that oral sex without the releasing of many does not necessitate ghusl. And that's another important note. So since that was so short, we'll get into chapter 7 a little bit. And chapter 7 is the obligatory, the sunnah, and meritorious parts of ghusl. So now we know the causes, and now he's going to give you the obligations first, is what we're going to cover, the obligatory parts of the ghusl when you're actually performing the ghusl. So now we already covered what causes it. You're in janaba for whatever one of those three reasons. Now I have to take ghusl. What do I do? So he says, uh, the obligatory acts of ghusl are the niyah when beginning. The niyah when beginning. He says, and niyatu inda ashura. He says the niyah in the beginning. And then tawru, continuity. Third is delk, scrubbing. And the last is wal umum, washing the whole body. So when he says obligatory acts, he means these are things that if they aren't in place, the act is not valid. So without these four things, the ghusl will never be sahih. This is important to understand. When you say you're gonna ghusl, you need these four things. These are obligations. You have to have niyah at the beginning. What does that mean? You have the intention of ghusl to remove the impurity in order to do something of that is not permissible if you don't. Basically saying like you don't have to make it just for one prayer. I want to be able to pray or read Quran or anything of my deen. I need to purify myself. That's why I'm doing this. It's not just I want to take a shower. I'm dirty or we just had sex. I'm hot. I just want to clean myself. The niyah must be there in the beginning when you first do it. So this is before you even remove the nedges from you. Before you remove it, you have to have this intention. And that's important because if you don't, it's just a shout. It's not ghusl for the right reasons. It's still physical ghusl, but it won't suffice without the niyah. Everything has to, everything really begins with your intention. So then the niyah, when beginning, and then continuity, fawdu, continuous. So you can't stop. You don't wash up, get out the shower, go do something, come back, or your limbs are dry, then you go do something else. This doesn't work. When we say fawdu, this means no break. The break is the length of time that a body part has time to dry in a normal circumstance. So if you took a break so long that one part of your body dried in a normal circumstance, like you're not in like super hot weather, anything like that, where your body just dries real quick, this would be too long of a break. You broke the cycle. That's what it means by continuity. So in other words, we don't take breaks during continuing before the last part of your body dries. So that's what foul means. You continue all the way through. When you start, you finish upon completion. And then delk. Delk is when one part of the skin rubs against the other. This is an obligation in the school, in our school. So you can't just run water. You don't have to like scrub hard, but you must wash, scrub, or wipe. Delk. That's delk. But that's required. And then the whole body, from the top of your head to your toes, inside of your anus, behind your scrotum, behind your kneecaps, your armpits, your breast, your chest, your belly button, your ears, your inside of your nose, your elbows, your armpit, the whole body. And there's another note to this. My teacher had mentioned that some people can't reach their whole body with their hands. The ulama say that you can use something in order to reach those parts to do delk, like your rag or maybe a brush or something, or even your spouse. Your spouse can wash those parts of your back to make sure that all parts of the body get clean and get touched and get rubbed because it's important. So those are the four obligatory acts that they must take place in order for the validity of the ghusl. And then the sunnah acts. The sunnah acts are washing the hands up to the wrist, as in wudu. This is a sunnah act. So when you're washing the hands, and remember we do taqlid inside the hands. So when you wash the hands to the wrist, this is considered the hand in fiqh. Scholars of fiqh. So you wash the hand and you go through to make sure that the water penetrates the inside. Some people wash their hands like this. You need to get through to make sure that the water and you rub it. Dope. Make sure it gets through the whole, both of the hands and wash the wrist too. This is important. Important. This is the sunnah. And the sunnah in the realm of fiqh is different than the general sunnah. Because we don't abandon the general sunnah. The Prophet said, whoever abandons my sunnah is not from me. But in the realm of fiqh, in the context of fiqh, sunnah are things which the Maliki scholars say are things that he never abandoned. These are the sunnahs, like a sunnah mu'akkada. We don't really call it sunnah mu'akkada, we just say sunnah. These are the highly recommended acts. So you should do them. So the washing of the hands up to the wrist as in wudu, the med, it's out the mouth. And it's not just like kind of rinse like you would when you goggle mouthwash. Rinse your whole mouth. You rinse out the mouth. And then third, inhaling istinshaq, inhaling the water into the nostrils and istithar, blowing the water out. Not loudly being extra. This is macro. So just you don't gotta just go all crazy like some people do. Just lightly. You don't want to do it where you like choking and water dripping down your throat. Just like I'm saying, clean out the nostrils and Shehu Usman and then Fordio said even afterwards to take your thumbs a little bit and rub inside the nostrils to make sure you clean them out. This is what he says on Datul Bayan in his description of the wudu. So you can also do that as well. And after rinsing and blowing out, then washing the inner parts of the ear, add to the lower lobes of the ears. So when he says this, we mean the inner ear lobes. It's khilaf. It's a difference of opinion in our school that wudu parts and goes excuse me. So basically, it's khilaf in our school that you only do the one part, one time. In Akdari's view, you only need to do the once, each of these sunnah acts of wudu. So once is the obligation. You have to do them at least once. But the sunnah is three, no more than three. Prophet we don't have any ideas where he did it more than three, but he did them up to three times. But with the earlobes, it's just once. You just inside the ear. When you're doing these things, take your time. Don't just make sure you really get in there, clean the air out. Take your time, blow out your nose. Make sure you really wash the hands. There's no need to rush because calmness, iktidal, is calmness And it's to ensure that you do it properly. Take your time. So those are the five sunnah acts. So you wash the hands up to the wrist, like in wudu. You rinse the mouth out, med. You do istinshaq, istinthar, wash the inner parts of the ear to the lower earlobes. And it is obligatory to wash them back and front. So it's obligatory to get the outside and the inside of the ear. This is the whole ear and the ear lobes, just like you would in wudu. So basically, when you start your ghusl starts with you doing wudu. But notice he left the feet out, and we'll talk about that. But your wudu, your ghusl starts with wudu. These are the sunnah acts. But you have to first have that intention when beginning, continuity, delicate, and washing the whole body. Those are obligatory. Without that, it doesn't matter what else you did. Your ghusl is not valid. But then he gives us the fadl, the fada'il, the meritorious acts. And meritorious acts are things which I recommended that you do. It's a better cut if you do them, but it's no punishment or anything. It doesn't diminish it or invalidate the act if you don't. But it's just things that are good to do. So he says the first is beginning with washing the impurity. So before you start anything, you make that niyah and you clean. So say you had intercourse and you release many. You clean off the many from your private area, or you clean the haid or the blood, the demi, from either the head or the post or the nifas. You remove the impurity, the najis. Then najis, you clean it, you clean the private, and that's when you start to make the intention. I'm doing this with the intention of making ghusl to purify myself in order to do acts of ibadah. My teacher just explained it this morning in class, me in my Risala class, about you don't have to make individual, even though it may be dhuhr, but you don't have to just make the intention for dhuhr. You're just making the intention to be able to make the prayers, to be able to read the Quran, whatever I want to do that is requires me to be in a state of tahur. That's why I'm doing this for. You make your intention, you can culminate it all into one niyat. You don't have to keep making individual niyats like that. But you do have to have the niyat. And then he says, Sheikh Akdari says, then washing the parts of wudu one time only. So in ghusl, you only have to do them one time. And you see, we have running showers. So basically, you under running water. The whole point of the wudu is to make sure that those parts of the body get washed. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. So, yeah, you have running water, right? So you're already under the running water. So the whole point, as one of my teachers, Amir Khalil, taught me, the whole purpose is to make sure that the part is washed. So if you got running water and you wash the whole hand, you don't got to do it three times. The extra is to ensure. So you under the running water, one time suffice. One time suffice. This is what Sheikh Akdari says. He says, then washing the parts of wudu one time only. But this is a federal. So if you do it more than that, it's okay. It's okay. So then he says, then the upper parts of the body first. So you wash your upper part of your body first. Now, and Sheikh Kitani explained to us when we were studying Ashmawiya, he said that the reason for the upper body is that's where the akal is, the heart. That's where the most important part of the body is first, is the heart. So this comes first. This was some of the ulama said. So you wash the upper part of the body, and then you wash the head three times. So this is not in order, but these are just the meritorious acts. So you would start with the upper body and you wash the head three times. So he says, um, and the ears are included in that. So basically, you clean yourself, you made your intention, dump the water three times. Make sure it gets into the root of your hair, like the sisters say. If you have long hair, you make sure the water's in all of your hair and your roots and everything. And then you start to do your wudu. You rinse your hands three times, mouth, med, your face, You do your wudu. You see what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Because when the hands in wudu, washing the hands is the whole, all of this is the hands. So you're doing wudu. You basically do wudu as if you were doing wudu without ghusl. That's what you're doing in the shower. You're doing wudu. So you do your wudu, but you don't have to necessarily wash your feet right away. You can wait because now after you do the wudu and you stop after you wipe the head, now you wash the whole body. So you clean your whole body and then you're gonna wash your feet anyway. So you don't have to wash your feet. That's usually the way. That's how I was taught. You do wudu and every part of the body except for your feet. And then once you wipe and wash your whole body. Then you wipe your feet. You don't have to wipe your feet twice. Or you could do it in wudu either way, but you have to wash the whole body for it to be ghusl. Wudu, these aspects of wudu are a part of ghusl, but you're not making wudu alone. This is ghusl. But these parts are sunnah for ghusl, so they should not be left off. They should be done, though they are not an obligation. They are highly recommended. This is the way the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam made his wudu, made his ghusl. So you start, you clean off the edges, you make the intention, you do your wudu all the way up until your feet. And you stop, water 3 times over your head. You make sure it gets into your scalp, and then you start to clean your body from the upper part, your ears, everything. For those of us with a beard, make sure it gets through the beard. If you don't have a beard, make sure it penetrates your skin, your neck. You clean everything. And you start right side, as always, everything. Your body, and then you go left. You go all the way down. Make sure you with your hand inside your anus, because and like I said before this, you could take a regular shower, and we discussed this when we talked about the types of water. Why is taking a regular shower not ghusl? Can either one of you tell me why? Why is let's have a little bit of dialogue here. Why is using regular soap and water, even though it's a bath, why is that not considered ghusl? Either one of you tell me why. Don't all answer right at once. I'm asking you guys. That's interactive.
May,
Anybody?
ask me that question one more time, please.
Why is it why can't we just soap and water and you clean your body, and that's why is that not ghusl? Why doesn't that suffice?
You, should I let Doria go ahead, or should I just go ahead?
You unmuted your mic. She didn't. Go ahead. Either one of you. It doesn't matter.
She didn't. He didn't have the intention.
Okay, but why else?
He also he also didn't rub. There's no delk.
Okay, how is there no doubt? If he's rubbing and he cleans his body with soap, and the ulama say you could use something to help reach the whole body, how's that? That's still dope. So that's not what I'm looking for. Why isn't that suffice? He's rubbed. He had the intention to clean himself, to purify himself. He used soap and water and cleaned his body. He removed the najas. But why would
Then
it not be considered good?
he changed the water. The water became not my mustaqbil. Uh, I mean my mutlaq. Excuse me. Absolute water. Excuse me.
Exactly. And that is an important thing to remember. That's what I was looking for. Alhamdulillah, barakallah fi. The reason why you taking a regular shower the way we do in modern times is fine for conventional cleaning, but won't suffice as making you pure for ibadah, because you change in the water. Once you add the soap to the water, you're changing the water with something pure. And though the water is still pure to use for conventional use, it's no longer pure to use for ibadah. It's not ma'ul mutlaq, it's ma'ul tahir. This is an important fact. Most people would think, I'm bleeding, I cleaned the blood, because you're going to clean it with soap and water. I cleaned myself, I removed it, I washed my whole body, and I had the intention. That's a bath. No, that's not ghusl. Because in order to remove ritual impurity, you must have ma'ul mutlaq, whether it's wudu or ghusl. It's like that. It must be pure earth, clean earth, in order to do dry ablution. Tayammum. This is an important fact for your fiqh. Many people are under this impression. They take a shower, I'm gonna go take ghusl. They just think it means taking a bath. They take the literal translation. They don't understand. They don't have fiqh understanding of the deen, that they don't know there's 3 types of water. They don't know that the Prophet ﷺ said that pure water is that which has not had its color, taste, or smell changed by things that are not intrinsic to it. When you put soap into the water and you lather up with your loofah, or your body wash or your soap bar and your wash rag, yeah, you're doing delk and all that, and you're removing the najis physically, but you're not in a state of tahara because the water was changed. So this is an important fact. So once you clean yourself with the soap and all that, you take your modern day shower. Now it's time to do ghusl. Najis is removed. You made the intention. You can make the intention, remove the najis, boom, 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 clean off all the soap water. Now you got pure water. Now I start. Wash the hands, rinse the mouth, instant shack, instant there. Wash the face, wipe the head, clean the ears, wipe your arms 3 times and clean the whole body with your hand or the rag to get to the first you want to use your hand. You want to do delf and the hard to reach spots. You can use both, but have your spouse help you because you can take ghusl together. This is permissible as long as you're not doing anything to sexually arouse yourselves. And keep in mind, the reason why you clean the edges first is because that's another question. Why do we clean the edges first? Anybody know why? Before you start doing your wudu, the acts of wudu and the ghusl, why do we clean and touch the privates first before we start?
I know the answer to this. I'm gonna give Dory a
Go ahead.
chance if she want to type something in the chat.
You could type it, Duria. Do you know why? You could type it if you want to answer. If you want to answer,
I want to
type it.
hog. I want to hog the mic.
You can type it in the chat. Why do we clean the private part first before we start doing the acts of wudu and ghusl? There's a reason. You know why? Oh, she's driving. Okay. So
Okay, then I guess I'll just give my insight. I believe is because if you touch it afterwards, it'll remove the wudu.
touching
So
the
you gotta wash
private
it first. So you gotta
with,
clean it off
with
first. That's the separation from the cleanliness. You know, what I'm saying, just making your body smell good, and then once you clean your body, make it smell good, then you do the ritual purity to be able to do the act of worship. Because the wudu and the ghusl is to restore the wudu as a prerequisite for ibadah.
exactly, and you breaking the wudu. So now, if I touch my penis while I'm making the wudu and I try to clean it off now, I broke the wudu. Now I have to start over. And for the woman, if she in the Maliki school touching the outer side of the vagina, this kilaf doesn't necessarily break the wudu. But if she breaks the labia, as is said by Akdari and Ibn Abi Zayd and others, the labia meaning her vaginal lips. We're mature here. We're talking fake. If she enters inside of herself to clean herself, after this would be considered like fondant, and this would be the equivalent of a man touching his penis with the white part, and this would break her wudu. So then it wouldn't be valid. So now you can't do ghusl because you need those aspects. You need those sunnah aspects. This is a sunnah. Sunnah is right under wedges. So even though it's not obligatory, it's highly recommended. So by leaving these things off, you're making your ghusl deficient. It might still be valid, but it's deficient. And it's khilaf on that if it would even people would even accept it. So the best thing to do is to do these sunnah. The differentiation of sunnah and fara'id is not to diminish the sunnah. It's just so you have an awareness. Like for example, in the prayer, you need to know what's fard and what's sunnah because sujood as-sahw is no, you can't use it in fard. If you leave out a fard, your prayer is invalid. The sajda itself doesn't, it fixes the prayer, it patches up. Like Shekitani explained, like if you had a hole in your shirt, you patch it up. The sajda itself patches it up, what you may have added or taken away from the salat. But it doesn't, it can't, but you can't, it doesn't rebuild it. So if you missing an arcane, pillar of the prayer, two prostrations before or after taslim won't fix it. Your prayer is not valid. If you miss the Fatiha, you can't do sajda itself. You got to redo the whole prayer. The Prophet said there is no salat without Fatiha. So knowing the differences of what you missed, and then we know from the examples of the hadith, when the Prophet did say the Isra, it was when a sunnah was either omitted or an addition. When he forgot something, he did say the Isra. So this is the differentiation. So this is why we need to know the differences between fadl, fara'id, sunnah, makruh, haram. You need to know what the rulings are for the different acts so that you know what to do. And this is why the niyat is so important. Oh, I need to make niyat for prayer. Which prayer? What prayer are you doing? You're praying, you have to know the need, you have to have an intention. Because without intention, we don't know why you're doing what you're doing. You won't know. So this is the importance of knowing these things. And this seems like tedious and kind of like, boring maybe to some people. I find it very interesting, but I think it's important, and I think it will increase your iman when you know for sure that you purified yourself correctly. It's not to make you arrogant, but to make you confident in your deen. I know that I'm doing the right thing. I'm following what the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam told me to do, and I'm standing before Allah as He commanded me in a state of purity. I know for sure when you understand that, one of the conditions for the validity of the prayer to face the Qibla, you will make it a point to learn how to find the Qibla no matter what condition you're in. You won't just rely on apps. When you learn the times of the Salat through the Hadith, through fiqh, now you know how to know, your prayer times. You may not be at the masjid. You may not hear the adhan. You may be in an environment or be somewhere where these type of things don't happen. I know how to tell my time. I know when the prayer is done. I don't have to question these things. I know what to do. I have yaqeen, certainty. Learning and knowing Allah and knowing His Sharia will give you yaqeen in your deen. And that's what we want, certainty. To know with certainty that what we're doing, because there can be no shak in your deen. So that's why we study these texts. That's why even though when you go through different prominent texts, they will a lot of times they repeat the same things over and over, but they explain them differently. Like when we study, inshallah, when we finish Akdari, I would at some point I would like to study Muqaddimah Ashmawiya. Just like when Matt is teaching Muqaddimah Izziya. One of the things I noticed, he starts off talking about pure body. They don't talk about that in Akdari and Ashmawiya. But the Sheikh the Sheikh talks about it in Indeed. He talks about it. What his opinion is of what is considered pure, what is considered impure as far as bodies, physical bodies, all these things before he even gets into wudu and pure water. But the first thing Akdari starts with is water. Actually, Sheikh actually we leave certain. He doesn't even discuss what the nedges are. Akdari gets into the specifics of what is najasa, what things we consider najasa. So he goes a little bit more in depth into that than Sheikh Ashmawi does. So they all are beneficial, and these are from the different parties of different regions. The eastern regions, the Maghribi region, the Mauritanian region, the Hausaland region. When we study, inshallah, I hope when we get to study that's what they and Muta'bidun Bidin and Ihya as-Sunnah and all these different books where he teaches Maliki fiqh, because a lot of times Shaykh Man Del Fordil is often overlooked as if you can't learn the fiqh from him. In Mauritania, they have their scholars who have taken the classical text that we're studying now and taught it to their people in their way. Like in Senegal, the Mauritania, when they learn fiqh, they learn it through Sheikh Ahmadou Bamba's shards, his shard Akhdari, Muwahibul Kudus and things of this nature. They learn about fiqh through his explanations. Ajrumiyah, he has a shard of Ajrumiyah. So they learn the classical text from the Tartib of their region. So we shouldn't overlook these things, and it's a benefit, even though the larger general audience may not consider them to be the valid books. But every region has different styles. When you go to the eastern regions, for the Shafi in Somalia, they're going to teach Risala Jamia and all these things, but it may not be the actual Risala Jamia. It may be a shah or a mutasar of that text. So it's important that we study all of them, because even though we may touch the same subjects, they all build on different things, and this will make your understanding stronger as you get into Akrab Salik, Tadrib. Tadrib Salik is really a summarization of a summarization of a summarization of Akrab Salik by Imam Adar. So I'm saying, and then you have Khalil, you have all these. There's so many different texts in the school, which I think is beautiful, and I think that's why I love our study group, because we're doing a little bit of, even though we base it mainly in the Western traditional tartib of how we learn, we also introducing Eastern books as well, like Izziya, like Ashmawiya, and we haven't even gotten into Ibn Ashur, Risala Ibn Abi Zayd, before you get all texts of Salik, which are all texts that I hope that we get to study together, because they all bring benefit. And the scholars give their different, like what he's here. He has those 11, that method taught us those 11 strange views. You see what I'm saying? But many of them, like most of the Maliki textbooks, they're gonna give you 14 obligations of the prayer. For Sheikh Ashman, we only give you 13. He left out 14. There's three of them he left out that he didn't have in his text. But then if you read a chart like by Imam Turki, he added chapters on Hajj and Zakat. Sheikh Ashmawi didn't cover that. He didn't even get into Zakat Hajj, because his book was for the beginner. So in his mind, his thing was The person may not be able to afford to take Hajj, and they may be too poor for zakat. That's not immediately what's necessary for them to know. What's immediately necessary for them to know is the type of water to purify themselves with, and the prayer and fasting. So that's what he focused on. And to be honest, that's what we need to focus on nowadays. People get into all this, it's good to study Muqtasar Khalil and Mudwana and all that stuff later on. But a lot of people want to jump into that. But if you ask them, can you list to me right now the obligations, the sunnahs, and the fadl and the fada'il of prayer? They can't off the top of their head. And this is something you do every day. If you give them a masala, a certain question like, well, what does a person do if he misses that and the third? When does he do sujood as-saw? What is the ruling on doing it qabli or ba'di? The fuqaha made it. It's called next. The next is qablu, is before anything that is takes away from the prayer is done before. Ziyada, anything that is addition, is done ba'di, after. This comes from the opinion of Imam Malik rahimahullah. This is the easiest way to learn it. Next, anything that is omitted from the prayer, you must do sujood as-saw before taslim. If there was an addition, Sheikh Kitani, Hafidullah, he said that we do the two rakats afterwards to tease the devil, because he enjoyed that he distracted us and made us add on to our prayer. So this is just to tease him and to kind of patch it up. But if you're missing something, but then and then when we get into that, Sheikh Akdari has a chapter on the exceptions to that. He has a chapter on the exceptions to Sajda as-saw. See what I'm saying? Which is, let me see which chapter it is right quick. It's in here too. Making 12 parts of prayer. And then he has sunnah of the prayer, meritorious acts of the prayer, the dislike practices in the prayer, the effects of the salat, feasts, making up missed prayers, and the forgetfulness in prayers. So this is when he talks about it. You know what I'm saying? Sujood as-saw. You know what I'm saying? So he discusses that, and he gets into where it's and it's a very detailed chapter. He gives a lot of detail in that chapter on how to do it, when do you do it, and when you don't do it. And then there's a difference. I remember in our Maliki group on Facebook, a brother had asked, he wanted to know what was the ruling on forgetfulness in nafila prayers, and the brother posted the picture from Akdari. Forgetfulness in nafila salat is like forgetfulness in fard salat, except in 6 instances. So there's 6 exceptions to that. And we're not going to get into it now, but I'm just giving you an example of the detail that this beginner text gets into and the differences in some of the text. But that's just me bigging up the method, excuse me. But back to the point, the obligatory sunnah and fadl acts are covered. We discussed them in detail now. So we know that the fard acts are the niyah when beginning, total continuity, and what that means, delik, and washing the whole body. Those 4 things must be done in order for your ghusl to be sahih. And then we have the sunnah acts, washing the hands up to the wrist as in wudu, rinsing the mouth, inhaling water into the nostrils, blowing the water out, washing the inner parts of the air, and to the washing the inside of the air and the earlobes, back and front and middle. We know this to be a fact. And according to Sheikh Akdari, you only have to wash the hands up to the wrist. You don't even have to do the whole arm. You don't even have to do that. You wash the hands up to the wrist, do med, istinshaq, istithar. He didn't even say wash the face. He doesn't mention that. Because you don't have to do all that, because you're about to wash your whole body. So that's a correction I need to make, because I said that you wash the whole face. You don't even have to do that. You just rinse your hand, you wash your hands, do med, istinshaq, istithar, and then what? And then he said the earlobes. And that's it. And then you do your ghusl. So you do certain acts. That's why he says only one time, because you're not actually making wudu, but you're doing certain aspects of the wudu, parts of what will be in wudu. So this is important to understand. And then he gives us the virtuous acts, beginning with washing the impurity from the private parts. And this is where the niyah starts. When you're washing the private parts off. And it's important to do that with what? Ma'ul mutlack, because that's what's going to remove the ritual impurity. You wash it off with water that is ma'ul mutlack. You don't use soap. You use pure water first. This is how you take your ghusl. So once you take the ghusl, then you can use. So it's better to take ghusl first and then do your shower the regular way. Because we read this in the earlier chapters on najasa. The only way to remove najasa is with water that is pure. And in the Izia, Method discussed this too in the beginning, that the Sheikh has said that in Izia. He said that and the only thing that removes hadath is ma'ul mutlaq. So that's another point to make. Don't use soap. You're removing this najis, you remove it with ma'ul mutlaq. Clear, pure water. Pure water. You run in the water in the shower, you clean yourself off first, take your ghusl, and then you take your regular shower. This comes first. It doesn't mean you don't wash yourself and clean yourself with soap and water, but you must use ma'ul mutlaq first for it to be ghusl, for this to be, uh, for you to have ritual purity in order to do acts of ibadah. So this is an important aspect to understand. And then he ends it, the sheikh, he says, whoever forgets a spot or limb during his ghusl, he must hasten to do so as soon as he remembers, even if that takes a month. So if you forgot a part of the limb and you remember, even if you must go back and wash that part. He says he should then repeat all the salats done before. This is his rod. This is his opinion. So if you forgot a part of ghusl and then you made prayers and maybe almost a month later you remember, you would owe all those prayers. You would have to rewash that part you missed and then make up all those prayers. So this is another reason why it's important to take your time and try your best to wash properly so that you won't go through that. But it happens. And if it does, you have to repeat, wash that part, and then you have to repeat those prayers. This is the opinion of Sheikh Akdari. He says if he delays the washing after the remembrance, then the ghusl itself becomes void. So if you knew and you didn't immediately go fix it, it's void. Now the ghusl is void and all those prayers are void. He says, if, however, the part that was forgotten are among those washed in wudu, then the wudu washing would suffice. This is why, again, it's important to know the difference between the sunnah and the fard. Because one of the parts of the body of the ghusl is the whole body must be washed. So if you forgot one of the parts of the body that needed to be washed during ghusl, you have to wash that part like ghusl. But if it was one of the wudu parts, meaning you forgot you forgot med. You forgot istinshaq or istinfaq. You forgot to wash the hands in the beginning. You forgot to clean the ears. These are the parts that would have been washed in wudu. Then you just do wudu. You just do your wudu. And we know in wudu when you forget something, you have to do that part and what comes after it. So if you forgot the hands, you would do the hands, then med, and then do the whole thing again. If you forgot the ears, you would just do the ears because nothing, and then you will wash your feet. Whatever comes after that, you would do that part, and then what follows it. That's the way it goes when you forget something that you do. So this is the aspect that Sheikh Akdari has given us in this opinion. So we just covered these two brief chapters. We covered what necessitates ghusl. So just to end it with a quick recap, we know that ghusl is obligatory account of three things: janaba, haid, and nifas. And the asbab of janaba, the causes of janaba are two: the release of mani with normal pleasure while asleep or awake, by intercourse, or by any other means. So any way that mani is released, no matter how it happens, you're in janaba. And the second asbab is when the penis enters the female genitalia, anus or vagina. You're in janaba. You must take a ghusl. And he said, whoever has a wet dream or a sexual dream but doesn't release mani, the ghusl is not required because the asbab is not there. The cause is not there. The mani is the asbab. The release of mani is one of the asbab. So there was no asbab. There's no cause for ghusl. It's no longer, now it's not obligatory. The asbab for prayer is it's wet. It's time. Once the time comes in, it now becomes obligatory for you to pray. If the time isn't in, it's not obligatory to pray yet. I hope this is clear. And then he says, whoever finds dry sperm on their garment and can't remember when it got there, You should perform ghusl and repeat all those salats you've done since the last time you slept. Ensure that one, you have proper tahor and that your prayers are accepted. And then we covered chapter 7, the fara'id, the sunan, and the fada'il of ghusl. And the fara'id are four: the niyat, when beginning, tawru, continuity, delk, and washing the whole body. And the sunan are five: washing the hands up to the wrist as in wudu, rinsing the mouth, inhaling water into the nostrils, blowing the water out, washing the inner parts of the ear to the lower earlobes. And then the virtuous acts, the fada'il, beginning with washing the impurities, then the private parts, making your intention at this point, then washing the parts of wudu one time only, and then the upper parts of the body and washing the head three times. And doing the right sections of the body before the left and using as little water as possible. Actually, missed that, excuse me. Using as little water as possible. Always preserving water. The Prophet said, even if there was a river in front of you, don't waste water. We should get into the habit of using a vessel when you're taking wudu. Maybe not ghusl, you might not be there yet. You have the shower, but you don't have to run the water the whole time. Once you wet the whole body, you can turn the water off and just use the water that you have on your body. Make sure the whole body is rubbed. Make sure you clean the whole body off. Or you can run the water, mashallah, but it's more preferable. It's meritorious to not waste water. Make it a habit now. You can use a closed vessel you put on your left, or open bowl, or a pot on your right. Start to get used to doing wudu this way. This is the sunnah. These is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. And I want a side note because in the that's what Bayan, Sheikh Uthman there's a description that my teacher put in here. The Sheikh describes how to perform ghusl. So I just want to read that to you. He says the way to begin the ghusl is that a person should start by washing the dirt or impurity that is on his private parts of his body. He should then make wudu. This is why I said the arms and everything, because he says to make wudu. Period. Just make wudu. If he wants, he could wash his feet, or if he wants, he could postpone washing them to the end of his ghusl. So it's like I said, make you do all the parts of wudu. Boom, boom, boom. There, you rinse the mouth, face, head, your ears, but you don't wash your feet if you don't want to, because you're gonna wash your feet anyway when you do the full body. So you do wudu up until your feet, or you do your feet as well. This is what the Shaykh said. He says then he should put his hands in the container, the vessel, because during the Shayk's time, during the time of the Prophet, they didn't have running, they didn't have showers like that. And even if you do, it's more virtuous to do what the Prophet did. He used one sa, which is one handful for wudu, and two handfuls of his handful for ghusl. That's how much you need. You see? So he says, then he should put his hands in the container and then bring them out, retaining any water in them, and then work them into his scalp. So when you pour the water, and for the sisters that have the hair, you make sure all the hair and get it into the scalp. Make sure the whole head is wet, your hair is wet. He says, then he should use his hands to scoop the water and wash his head thoroughly three times. The Prophet it's in the Muwatta, in the Hadith. He did this first and then three times. Go ahead, Matthew.
It's gonna be difficult for the ladies that like hair extensions and stuff like that because I want their head to get wet.
Well, for one, that's questionable about the hair extensions, and two, it shouldn't be that. Well, what's more? All right, so the real okay, she got something to say. Go ahead.
Well, my advice for sisters is to because you gotta constantly offer wudu throughout the day. It will be easier on you.
I didn't catch that. You said it'd be easier to do what?
Think that as women when we are I don't even think they're supposed to wear hair extensions. I could be wrong, but I don't think this that we should because for one, to do wudu we have to have our natural hair being touched by the water.
MashaAllah. You're absolutely right. It's you shouldn't. You shouldn't. And for that reason, anything that you would do, Master brought up a good point, jokingly. Anything you do that will cause conflict with your needs, you should be getting rid of it. So if having them hair extensions is gonna make taking ghusl difficult for you and making it where you can't purify yourself as badly, why you got the hair extensions in it? If it's a problem, if it's gonna be a problem for you to wet it, then you need to get rid of that. Go ahead, man.
I was gonna say that also gets into like the fake nails,
I was
plastic.
just gonna.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna. Nah, I was just gonna say that, like, because a lot of sisters they have this idea where they could just wear the nails, and then put voodoo over their nails, but you gotta be able to use your real nails. It can't be fake nails.
So the thing about the nail thing and all of that is the whole thing is the water must be able to penetrate. Anything that blocks the water from penetrating your skin, it would make your wudu or your ghusl invalid. It's just like what I was talking about before the tattoo. If I get a tattoo here and I got the plastic wrap on it, how you gonna make wudu? The water is blocking. Nothing can block the water from your skin. So when you have fake nails, the water's not getting into your actual cuticle. So it's not even so much that the nail is fake, is that it's blocking the water from getting into it. And then you get into the thing of it's considered lying. You're forcefully from your nails. That's not your real nail. You're altering the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a way. So that I'm not a shit, but this can get into a
And
lot of issues.
polish, nail polish.
But yeah, nail polish and a lot of the nail polish they try to say halal polish. Anything that blocks the water from the surface of your nail, your skin, your cuticles would be impermissible and would make the act itself invalid. Go ahead, Method.
I got a few statements to make. Person with long hair, I think normally you would do three, but if you have like very long hair, you might have to do a little bit extra to make sure it hit the scalp. I was just thinking like the nails, the extension. This like put a big smack to the beauty industry because the beauty industry very superficial. It's not so off at all. It's just the appearance. And I got a question for you about something like braids and dreadlocks. Saying maybe you have some insight on it. The person has like dreads, braids, things like that.
Yeah, my teacher spoke on this. Uh, there's nothing. This is permissible as long as I think let me see about it. Ma'am Naeem said dreadlocks. These are all permissible as long as nothing is blocking or penetrating. But if the hair is like twisted where the water wouldn't get to it, you have to open it. But it's permissible to have braids or dreads. There's no, even though a lot of Muslims think that it's haram, it's not haram. There's no issue. There's no issue with it.
This
There's no issue.
concept gets into the beard as well. When you have like a short beard on the side and thick beard, with the short beard, you might just wipe it. With the thick beard, you have to put your fingers through it. So this concept is pretty much the whole head.
In ghusl, you have to make sure it penetrates through the beard. In wudu, you just wipe over it. But in ghusl, you have to penetrate because every part of the whole body must be clean. And uh, keep in mind that wiping the head doesn't necessarily, just long as the hair gets wet. So braids or well, braids that can be loosened should be loosened so that the water can penetrate. But if it's dreadlocks, this is permissible. There's nothing wrong with a woman or anybody having it. Like you can still your ghusl will still be valid from my understanding. What my teachers taught us. Right? There's no problem with this. You know what I'm saying? This is not an issue because there's nothing that's stopping the water. The water can still get in your hand, the water can still get to your scalp. Because if you rubbing like this at the roots, it's just like when you grease your roots, you're still gonna get to the roots, so it won't be an issue. You see what I'm saying? So that's not a problem. So yeah, that was a good question. I'm glad you guys are like interacting. This is good. I'm really glad. So yes, braids and dreads are not an issue at all. You see what I'm saying? But so the Shehu says that you have to work them into your scalp, and then you should use your hands to scoop the water and wash your head thoroughly 3 times. Women do the same thing, except that and then here it goes right here. He says it. Women do the same thing, except that she is not obligated to unbraid her hair if she has braids. And there's a hadith where Aisha, after Aisha radiallahu anha, she got upset with one of the companions about his ruling because he kept telling the women that they had to take out their braids, and she basically was like, "Why don't he just tell them to cut their hair off? If he's gonna say these things." Because she didn't agree with the ruling. His opinion was that they needed to not have the braid to take and unbraid their hair, and she said, "No, you don't have to do this. You don't do this." So this is why the Shehu made it a point. He says women do the same thing except that she is not. Women do the same thing except she's not obligated to unbraid her hair if she has braids or locks. You don't have to untwist your hair. All you do, as long as it can penetrate the scalp, it's not the hair, it's the scalp, your head. The hair comes off your head. So when this whole misunderstanding of dreadlocks are haram and it's imitating the kuffar, la 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 la. There's no textual feature on it or anything like that. This is permissible, and the Shaykh made that clear right there.
I think there's a very important point because I think a lot of people subconsciously fall into anti-blackness. They might not mean to, but you ever notice like when it's a traditional hairstyle or anything traditional in any other culture, like they always find a way that it's okay. But anything that's associated to black people, they kind of get a little nervous. Oh, dreads, oh, braids, oh, you got to do it like this. Oh, you can't eat this food, or you talk like this, then it's imitating the kuffar. It's not really true because that's black Muslims are dressing like this. Even the Prophet wore braids. I believe he had three braids in one of the hadith. If not what you just quoted, I think that was a different hadith. But you get the point because there was warriors. You know what I'm saying? You didn't want to have your hair just flowing, and you're a warrior. So this is a very good point to not knock a hole in the anti subconscious anti-blackness.
Well, it's true. And I was going to say that. I'm glad you brought it up. I mean, you have to remember that Shehu Usman Dan Fodio is an African scholar from Nigeria. Locks and braids have been a part of African culture for centuries. This was a form of royalty at one point. And during the transatlantic slave trade, when they used to do the braids in different designs, they were actually matched to direct people to their freedom. There's all types of wisdom that were behind our culture. And yes, there is a campaign of anti-blackness. Anything that comes from our culture is wrong, it's bad, get rid of it, it's this, it's that. No, you can have your braids, you can have your locks. That's a part of our culture. As long as the culture doesn't contradict Islam, you don't have to let it go. And that's why the Shaykh who made a point to mention that because he's talking to his people in northern Nigerian Hausa land. They wore locks, they wore braids. Now more so maybe women than men. That's why he made a point for women because that was something women did. But there are men who wear braids and men who have locks. It's the same rule. It's permissible. And is that you brought that up? Is that's why I wanted to discuss this because and that's why when we study in depth with Berlin, it's such it's such an important text and beneficial text that he's getting into that detail. So having braids or having locks is not an issue. So then he continues, he says, he then pours water over the right side of his body and then on the left side while rubbing the water in with his hand when he has poured the water until he covers all of his body with the water and the rubbing. So basically, when you're standing in the shower, you start with your right side and you go to your left side. If you run in the water, if you're not using the vessel. Then he says, if he is doubtful, if water has reached some parts of his body, he should do that part again using water. So when you have doubt, do it again to make sure. Go ahead, Matthew.
About starting with the right side and then doing the left. When we studied Muqaddimah al we learned that when you're trying to take out, you start with the left. So that'll be removing the filth. You remove the filth with the left, but when you take on, so like putting on the purity, you start with the right. So I thought that was just kind of an interesting point. And that same concept is all throughout the religion. So even walk out of the bathroom, so you step out, so you step into the bathroom with the left, things like that. So the left hand is associated with removal of filth.
And this all goes into Sunnah. This is the way the Prophet ﷺ did things. You're right. So then he says he should make sure this washing and rubbing reaches the depths of his navel and neck. So you get the neck, then you take your pinky finger, go on your navel, make sure the water gets all parts of your body. So this, see, by learning this and getting into this depth of detail, you will do it correctly and understand the importance of it. You're purifying yourself for Allah. So it's important that you know. So he says that you reach the navel and the neck. Excuse me. He says, and he must make sure the water penetrates the hair of his beard. I just talked about that. So when you have a thick beard like myself or thicker, you must make sure it gets in. Well, who do we just, when it's Ghusl, you gotta really get in to make sure that it penetrates the beard. He has to reach his armpits between his buttocks and thighs, behind his knees and the soles of his feet. He must also wash between his fingers. Takleel. All parts of the body must be washed. The whole body. Remember, that's one of the obligations. So if you don't get the whole body, the ghusl is not bad. He then says he must wash his feet at the end of his ghusl if he chose to not wash them when he made wudu early. So you could do it with the wudu or when you're doing the whole body. He says washing the feet at this time will bring together the completion of his wudu and the completion of his ghusl. So if you left it off in the beginning and you do it at the end, you completed wudu and ghusl. So this is why I always teach it that way. You take a ghusl after you clean the impurity and make the niyat, do wudu, and you rip your feet off. The whole body and wash your feet. Now you completed ghusl and wudu together. It's simple. So then he says he must make sure that he doesn't touch his penis with the inner part of his palms while he rubs his body during the ghusl after he makes wudu. We discussed that because it would break the wudu and you'd have to start over because you have to do the wudu first in order to do ghusl. He says if he does his ghusl is complete, but he has to repeat his wudu. Touching the penis doesn't break your ghusl, but it saves your wudu. It breaks your wudu. So you did the whole ghusl, and now you got to redo your wudu. He says in this case, he should pass his hands over the limbs of ablution, washing them and having the intention of wudu in that regard. So if you mess up and you had to redo your wudu, now you have to renew your intention. Now you're just going to make wudu and you redo the wudu. And that's why he said he should pass his hands over the limbs of ablution, washing them and having the intention of the niyah wudu in that regard. So this is a beautiful explanation of how he details it. And I'm so glad that we did that. And Allah is the best of planners. You guys wanted to discuss the braids thing, and it was right there at the end of the first paragraph. Women do the same thing, except that she is not obligated to unbraid her hair if she has braids. According to the Maliki's, you don't have to do that. I can't speak on other schools. I know in our school that's what I was taught, and that's what we're taught. The Shaykh who said it as well as other people of the school. You don't have to take out your braids. You don't have to cut your locks. You don't have to stop wearing braids. You can still wear your braids. You can still get your twist. You can still enjoy your blackness. You can still enjoy our culture because it's our culture and be a Muslim. Do not let, like Imam Amin Muhammad taught me, Hafizullah, do not let somebody enslave you with Islam. Don't be played. Don't be manipulated. Don't be fooled. This is why we learn proper understanding of our religion, of our faith, so that you cannot be bamboozled and hoodwinked and swindled out of who you are, because Islam came to make you a better you, not to change you from who you are. It changes the bad parts of you, but you are still a black person. You still could be proud to be that, and we have a rich history in Islam as well as outside of Islam. We just gave the description of voodoo from a black scholar who had a caliphate that lasted for over 100 years during the time of the transatlantic slave trade, right in what is now northern Nigeria. Less than 200 years ago, about 200 years ago or so. We don't have to be ashamed. As Mathis said, this subconscious anti-blackness, we're not jacking. We don't have to accept that. And it's not even anti anything. Whatever your culture is, as long as your culture does not contradict the Quran and Sunnah, it's not a problem. If it does something that goes against the Sharia, get rid of it. Other than that, it's fine. So if you have your braids and you need to take ghusl or you need to make wudu, you can have braids. I've talked to many brothers in my experiences since I've been down. They be having dreadlock, bro. Can I make wudu? Yes. They be so worried. They rubbing the water all down their dread. What are you doing? Allah said, rub your head. You ain't gotta do all of that with the dread. Who told you that? The brother said, I can't. I gotta cut my dreadlocks. It's not permissible. Oh, the brothers won't pray behind the brother because he got dreadlocks. What? Oh, the hadith say, the one with braided hair is the shaitan tied a knot in his prayer. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Where are you getting this stuff? When did the Prophet Sallallahu Allah forbid this? But Prophet Sallallahu himself wore three braids. It was one of his favorite hairstyles. What are you talking about? So this is important for us to know. So now we know what necessitates ghusl, the causes of janaba. We know the obligatory, the sunnah, and the meritorious acts of the ghusl. And now we know how to perform this act. So now when this mas'ala, this issue comes up in your personal life, you know how to deal with it now. And always remember, use ma'ul mutlaq. Najasa, what is considered filth in Islam under the Sharia, is not like a general dirt. The only thing that can remove ritual impurity is water that is pure within itself and purifying. Ma'u mutlaq, absolutely purifying. It is what you can use for ritual impurity as well as conventional impurity. Anything other than that cannot be used in ritual impurity. Understand that. Washing with soap and water will clean your body generally. It is not going to make you pure for ibadah. You did not hear me read anything from the Shehu or Sheikh Akdari. You don't think they had soap in their time? Did they mention soap? They said water. Because as they're teaching it, remember, we're on chapter 6 and 7. He's already covered in chapter 1, water. So by the time we're on this chapter, you're already of the understanding of the 3 types of water and what kind of water you need to use. That's why he doesn't need to keep saying ma'ul mutlaq. You already know that's what is implied. So why does he need to keep saying that? But I want to emphasize that for whoever may come across this video who's new to learning and doesn't know or may not remember. You cannot remove hadath without having pure water that is purified. Without ma'ul mutlaq, it will not be valid. Get this new modern world thing. Oh, this they nasty, they funky. No, you can use the soap and water after. This is for ritual purification. Do what Allah has commanded first, then you could clean and put your dove on and your body wash and exfoliate and your scented oil. You can do all that. That's great. That's great. You smell great for your husband or your wife, but you can't pray. Put Allah and His Messenger first, and Sunnah first. Now you're really pure. I don't care how good you smell. If you can't read the Quran, you're filthy. You can't offer your salawat. You are filthy. I don't care about that polo you got on, that Chanel number, whatever. Doesn't matter. In the shower for 45 minutes and you came out filthy because you didn't use ma'ul mutlaq. SubhanAllah. This is the importance of knowing your faith. This is why the Prophet ﷺ said, when Allah wishes good for a believer, He gives him, or not wishes, desires or wants good for a believer, He gives him fiqhul deen, understanding of his religion, how to practice the Sharia, how the Sharia applies to our lives, to our ibadah, to our buying and selling, and to criminal law. Comprehensive. We discussed this in our other class, Idar Masalik at Fada University, at Fada Institute. That's in our classes. We discussed this, how it correlates to the Quran and Sunnah. When you're buying and selling, interest, what's a acceptable contract, what's a facet contract, all these different things, and what is the philosophy behind it, the muntiq. The maqasid of the Sharia is preservation of the aql, of the body, of your religion, of your honor. These are some of the maqasid of the Sharia. When you remove this filth and standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala properly, you are preserving your deen. You're preserving your religion. So this is why it's important that we continue these studies. So we'll end the class here. Alhamdulillah, I'm really glad you guys participated. I hope we could do that a little bit more. Where this is more like a study session. I'm not some teacher on some pedestal. I'm just a lowly student like you guys trying to learn, sharing what I learned. So I'm glad that you guys participated, and we need more of that interaction from the sister as well as the brother, because she's the only sister here and you representing for the women. And I'm so glad, alhamdulillah, better for our feet, that you spoke up and said that. And I'm glad that you guys brought those issues up, because those are issues not only that Black people go through, but just women in general, women and men. A lot of times they don't know. So we discuss these things and have this dialogue and discuss things with each other. This will open up discussions for other people and maybe answer some questions that other people may have. Go ahead, Matt.
I wanted to add a quick point on what you said. Like if a person took 45 minutes in the shower, they would have still came out filthy. I think that's a very good point, and it adds to the concept that this is a spiritual washing because there's a hadith, and I'm trying to pull it up, but it basically goes to say something along the lines of when he's in the wudu, he's washing his sin away like dirt. The sins is not something that can be measured in a microscope. You can't see it. It's something that's esoteric. It's something hidden or in the unseen world. So that can't be washed with soap. You can't wash something that's not physical with soap. So you're not trying to wash off a physical blemish. It's a spiritual blemish that you're washing off when you're obeying God. So when He commanding you to do this and you're obeying Him, Allah wiping away the sin. So I feel like that kind of corroborated what you were just saying. That's a very good point.
Alhamdulillah. That makes me think about when I was Sheikh Yahya Abu Mori, I was explaining his text, the seven hadith, and he was talking about purification in that chapter. And he said that when you're removing the hadath, it's kind of like it's a spiritual thing, but you treat it like it's something physically you're removing. When we do the wiping and you're removing it, even though it's not something you can see, but you treat it as if it's something you can see. So you're right, and these are sins. I was like, some say each drop of water is like the sin is dropping off your limbs. So, and like I said, when we study this fiqh, it's gonna enhance your taqwa. You're taking your time. Now you're really thinking like, man, now I know I gotta make sure I gotta really hit it. Now instead of just talking, yeah, girl, what you just talk. Now you're taking your time. You're gonna make sure you hit the back of the kneecap. I'm getting inside my buttocks. Let me make sure that I can't handle nails. Now, what's more important, like you said, it's gonna be a problem. If you having extensions and fake nails and all this stuff or whatever is more important to you than your deed, then you need to check your niyah. You need to check your niyah, man or female. If something you got going on in dunya is more important than your deed, you would halfway do acts of ibadah, and these are conditions for you to even be able to get to the prayer. We're not even at the prayer. This is for you to even be able to stand for the prayer. You in Janaba, you don't know you in Janaba. Alex, I think Rahimullah says this all the time. He said people, they have the beautiful clothes, they have the beautiful recitation and everything, and his prayer is backwards because he doesn't know how to make wudu or ghusl properly. He doesn't know how to make tayammum properly. He doesn't know how to do it properly. The iron is so overlooked. That's why we study in text that's for children as adults. Because it's not that it's anything wrong with us. Is we didn't know. We live in a time where knowledge is not what it was. This is not the norm to learn. These are normal things we should be knowing as Muslims. We've been Muslim 10, 15, 25, 30 years and don't know how to make wudu properly. I'm not saying he may not know the motions, but really understand how to make it properly. What do I do if I forget a part? It happens. You forget a limb. What do? Is my prayer valid? Isn't it? You don't know. This is where your fit comes in. So it's very important. This is why we have to know Allah. One can never worship Allah properly until you know Him first. Is what Imam Ghazali, Rahimahullah, said. One must know Allah before he can worship Allah. Knowing Allah, ma'rifat Allah. This is so important. All of this is knowing Allah. This is how we get closer to Allah, because we're learning how to perfect the obligations that we need in order to worship Allah properly. He said to stand up and be pure with Him. When you come from course, when you come from using the bathroom, you have to purify yourself properly. Allah commands it. And if you don't learn how to do it, how can you say you're serious about your deen? But you don't want to take an hour and some change to learn. Oh, it's boring. How's it boring? How's it boring learning your ibadah for your Lord? You learn how to roll weed, learn about Molly, you learn how to shoot guns, you learn how to twerk, you learn how to bag women, we learn how to finesse, we learn how to do all types of things in the dunya. But you don't want to learn your ibadah, which is the most important thing to you, because the first thing you're going to be questioned about on Yom Qiyam is your salah. Your limbs will testify against you. He said all the parts that are white and wudu, that's what they're going to shine on the day of judgment. The followers of the Prophet Muhammad will be known by the marks, the traces of wudu and the marks of prostration upon their faces. Tell the ummah of the Prophet Muhammad, and Allah has taught us and given us a guide on how to properly clean ourselves spiritually and physically, as the brother said. This is a physical and spiritual purification. It's deeper than just the physical body. It's not just about removing the negative. You're removing sins and preparing yourself to stand before. That's why the intention is good. I'm not just cleaning myself just to clean myself. I'm cleaning myself for my Lord, to read his book, to study the sunnah of his messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, to worship and to ask him for forgiveness. I have a reason behind it, and my reason is my Lord. I have a classical love. And when you have that sincerity, Allah will bless you. The Prophet said, whoever should take the path of seeking knowledge, Allah will make the path to Jannah easy for him. Because the understanding will make it easier for you to get there because you're doing it the proper way. His way. Who was the cleaner person than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Who was a more upright, respectable person than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Who was more intelligent than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Who was more sincere, God-fearing, understanding, compassionate, loving, strategic, courageous, hardworking than the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Khayrun Bashar, the best of humanity, the best of creation is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So who better to follow and emulate than him? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those who emulate him inwardly and outwardly sincerely. I mean, so we'll end here. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wa salatu wa salamu ala ashraf al-mursaleen Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa muqtadi. Ameen.